Hello, and welcome back to Ms. Bell's classroom. Today in class, we'll be talking about the human body systems, including the skeletal, muscular, nervous system, respiratory system, and so on. So we'll go ahead and start talking about that. But I want you to think about how do the muscles and bones in your body work together as we talk about the skeletal and muscular system today. So how do you think that they work together? And why do you think that they work together? So we're going to go ahead and talk about the skeletal system first. We'll be talking about that. So skeletal system just means your bones. So the skeletal system has some very important functions in your body. So obviously when you're thinking about the skeletal system, it's going to provide your shape and support in your body. It helps you move. It protects your organs. It produces blood cells and stores certain materials. So it is a very important system, and it's this is your bone of your body. So with the skeletal system, we've got some internal organs. So we have the skull. And the skull is going to protect the internal organ of the brain. We have the ribs, which protects the heart and lungs. We have your vertebrae, which is going to protect the spinal cord. The femur produces blood cells in the leg, and the humerus produces blood cells in the arm. So they all have very important systems, but those are some of the, more important functions of the skeletal system. So the organs of the skeletal system are bones. We also have cartilage. So cartilage is just the connective tissue that is more flexible than bone. So your nose, the tops of your ears, the ends of your bones also have cartilage. And then also a part of the skeletal system, an important part, are the ligaments. So ligaments hold bones together to form joints. So you have ligaments in your ankles, in your knees, your wrist. All of that's going to connect bones to each other. So the next system that we're going to talk about today is the muscular system. So the muscular system has some functions as well. So the muscular system helps the body move. And it also moves food through the digestive system, and it keeps the heart beating. So it's a very, very important system. It's helping you move. It's helping your body get those nutrients by helping food move through. And it's also helping your heart, which is allowing your body to get more blood and nutrients as well. So there are two types of muscle action: involuntary muscle and voluntary muscle. So involuntary muscle are muscles not under your conscious control. So like your digestive system when it's digesting food, and the muscles used for breathing, it's not under your control. So those are your involuntary muscles. Voluntary muscles are muscles that are under your control. So smiling, turning the pages in a book, walking to class, so things you can control. There are 3 types of muscle tissue that we're going to talk about. We have skeletal. So first kind we're going to talk about. And then we have smooth. And then we also have cardiac. So skeletal muscles are attached to bones and move bones using tendons. So connective tissue attaching muscles to bones is what skeletal muscle is. It can be banded. These are also voluntary muscles, so you control when you move them. Smooth muscles are inside of many of your internal organs, so like your stomach, and these are involuntary. And then cardiac is found only in the heart, so it's involuntary, and it never gets tired, unlike the skeletal muscles, which are the voluntary ones. So we're going to think about how do muscles work. So if you have your arm muscle, muscles move by contracting or becoming shorter. So they have to work in pairs. One contracts, the other returns to the original length. So that's kind of the overview of the muscular system. So the next system we're going to talk about is the skin system. So the skin system. So basically the functions of the skin system are to cover and protect the body to prevent water loss and keep out foreign particles. So it keeps you in touch with the environment, nerve endings, it regulates your body temperature, and it gets rid of waste. So sweat is an example of that. So the layers of the skin, we have the epidermis and the dermis. And the dermis. So the epidermis is the outermost layer, and that is where you do not have any nerves or blood vessels in this layer. Surface is mostly made of dead cells, which provides you protection. And then the dermis is the lower layer of the skin. So this is where your nerves, your blood vessels, sweat glands, hair, and oil glands are. So those are the 2. So this is the top, mostly dead cells, and then this is the layer below the epidermis. And then the next system that we're going to talk about today is the nervous system. So the nervous system has some very important functions as well. So the nervous system receives information about what is happening inside and outside of the body. So it directs the way your body responds to this information. So it's going to help your body maintain kind of that flatline homeostasis of the body. So organs of the nervous system are the brain. We also have nerves. So neurons, nerve cells, and the spinal cord. this, our brain controls most functions in the body, and the spinal cord is the link between the brain and the rest of the body. So that's what's sending out the messages. So the brain controls most functions, including interpreting input from your senses, as well as controlling movement of your skeletal muscles, and kind of the complex mental processes of learning as well. It also is going to help coordinate muscle actions and balance, and then it's also going to control involuntary actions, so like breathing, digesting food as well. So this is the brain, and the spinal cord are considered the central nervous system, and the neurons are considered the peripheral nervous system. So neurons, or nerves, are just nerve cells that specialize to transfer messages in the form of fast-moving electrical energy. Electrical messages are called impulses. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this now. So when you have a message, this is kind of the path of the nerve impulse. It's going to have your sensory neuron there. So remember, neurons are just nerve cells that, send messages. So you've got your sensory neuron, and then that's going to get sent to the spinal cord. And then the spinal cord is going to send this to the brain. And then the brain is going to send it back to the spinal cord. And then the spinal cord is going to send it to the motor neuron, which is going to impact the movement. So it goes sensory neuron, spinal cord, brain, back to the spinal cord, then to the motor neuron. So that is how it's kind of sending messages within the body. So next we're going to talk about the respiratory system. So respiratory system is when your body needs oxygen. So think about breathing. So we have the respiratory system. So the body needs oxygen for breathing. It needs it to create blood cells. The digestive system needs it. New body cells as well. So the function of the respiratory system is to move oxygen from the outside environment into the body. So it also removes carbon dioxide and water from the body as well. So the path of air into the body is going to go from the nose or mouth, so nose or mouth, to the pharynx, which is just kind of this area here. Or not, it's the back of this, sorry, the pharynx. And then after that, it's going to go to the trachea. And the trachea is more down here. And then after that, it's going to go to the bronchi. And after that, it will go to the alveoli, which is a part of your lungs. So when you breathe, you're going to inhale it, and then it's going to go down the path system following this. And then when you exhale, it's the opposite. So the next system that we're going to talk about is the circulatory system. So this system is just kind of like your cardiovascular system is another name for it. So the function of this system is to carry needed substances to cells and carry wastes away from cells. So the main organ of this system is the heart. And the heart is a hollow muscular organ that pumps blood throughout the body. So the other organs of the system are the arteries. We also have the capillaries and the veins. So those are some of those main systems. So the arteries are a blood vessel that carries oxygen-rich blood away from the heart and to the body parts. So arteries carry it away, so the A, away from the heart. Capillaries are small blood vessels where materials are exchanged between the blood and the body's oxygen, so oxygen and carbon dioxide. And then veins carry oxygen-poor blood with carbon dioxide back to the heart to be pumped out of the lungs. So the next part of the circulatory system that we're going to talk about is blood. So blood is made of 4 component parts. So the first part is plasma. And then we have red blood cells. And then we have white blood cells. And the fourth component is platelets. So plasma is the liquid part of blood. Red blood cells are the part of the blood that takes up oxygen in the lungs and delivers it to the cells. White blood cells are the body's disease fighters, so part of the immune system. And platelets are cell fragments used in forming blood clots. So this is what, when you get a scab or you cut yourself, platelets are the one that are the thing that are creating that scab. So the next system we're going to talk about today is the digestive system. So the digestive system has some major functions in the body. So firstly, it breaks down food into molecules the body can use. Molecules are absorbed into the blood and carried throughout the body by the circulatory system, so they work together. Wastes are eliminated from the body by the excretory system. So the digestive system has many organs that it works with. So I'm going to just list them all. We've got the mouth, where it starts, and then we have the esophagus, after the esophagus, we have the stomach. After the stomach, we have the small intestine. And then we have the large intestine. those are some of the organs that are involved in the digestive system. So when you start, we've got the mouth. So mechanical and chemical digestion start here. So mechanical is physically breaking down the food, and that's just your teeth chopping. Whereas chemical is the breakdown of molecules of food, so saliva helps with that. Your esophagus is the muscular tube connecting the mouth to the stomach, and this is kind of what helps move the food. There's a muscle contraction in the esophagus that will help move the food down. And then the stomach, most of the mechanical digestion takes place in the stomach. Some chemical with the help of the digestive soups, enzymes, and acids. And then small intestine is going to have some chemical digestion as well. And this is where the absorption of nutrients from digestive foods takes place. And then we have the large intestine, which water is absorbed into the bloodstream, and then remaining material is readied for elimination from the body. So that is kind of the overview, and that is the order that it happens to. Mouth, esophagus, so the next system that we're going to talk about today is the excretory system. So this is just the system that kind of eliminates waste from the body. So within the system we have kidneys, lungs, we have the skin, or some of the organs that help with this. So kidneys are an organ that eliminates excess water and some other waste materials. It filters waste from the blood. Lungs remove solid waste or remove carbon dioxide produced during cellular respiration. And the skin removes perspiration, so dissolved waste materials. So that's kind of that system. We know that it removes wastes from the body. The last system that we're going to talk about today is the immune system. So the immune system has some different functions as well. So it's going to provide a barrier against pathogens or disease-causing agents. It defends the body against pathogens. So the first line of defense is the barrier, which I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail in a moment. The second line of defense is the inflammatory response. And the third line of defense is immune system targets specific pathogens. So I'm going to talk about each of those. So with the first line of defense, that's called the barriers. So thinking about that, we think about, so the first line of defense are called the barriers. So with the barriers, we have skin, and the skin has chemicals in oil and sweat. Pathogens fall off with dead skin cells. And after the skin, we have mucus and saliva. So with that, they trap and remove pathogens that enter the respiratory system. And then we have sneezing and coughing. So sneezing, coughing. So sneezing and coughing force pathogens out of the body. And then we have saliva. So saliva are just destructive chemicals that can kind of be the barrier of things entering the body. So obviously this is the first defense because it's going to provide a barrier against the pathogens. So if they don't get in, then you don't need the second line of defense. So first we have the barriers. Our second line of defense with our immune system is the inflammatory response. So the inflammatory response uses something called phagocytes, or white blood cells, to engulf and destroy the pathogen. So if that doesn't work, then we're going to the third line of defense, which is the immune system targets specific pathogens. So we have B cells, and we also have T cells. When we're thinking about our third line of defense. So B cells are a type of lymphocyte or white blood cell that produces chemicals called antibodies to destroy each kind of pathogen. T cells identify pathogens and tell them apart using the pathogen's antigens, so marker molecules. So there are ways to prevent infectious disease. You can have active immunity, so occurs when a person's own immune system produces antibodies in response to a pathogen, remembers how to fight the pathogen. So that could be happening with you had an infection with the pathogen, or you had a vaccine or weakened or killed pathogen that you got. So chickenpox vaccine is an example of that. And then passive immunity. Antibodies are given to the person to fight the disease. So their own body did not make them. So like if you get a rabies shot, that would be an example of that. So that is all that I have today about the human body systems. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you next time.